Hey everyone, it's Bill Brandmeier. We're here with Ready to Play Week. It's Wednesday, and we're talking with area high school coaches, athletes, administrators. We're going to get the head of Keisha on here. We're going to have someone representing the state of Missouri in high school athletics. This is going to be a really important day because there's nothing more important to a kid in high school than participating with his friends and trying to achieve greatness through sports. And it's one of those things that we don't really know the impact of losing sports in our kids' lives. As a dad of a younger kid, I know that he's, he definitely has experienced depression, but we're here Ready to Play Week to kind of dive into this. We're really excited to be joined by some of the top area high school coaches. I'm joined today to help guide us through this conversation with my good friend Randy Withers, who has invested a lot of time and energy in being involved in youth sports. Randy, welcome to the broadcast. Welcome to Ready to Play Week. This is the high schools. This is your power alley. Tell everybody who we got today and what we're going to talk about.
Bill, I'm so excited. I think we've got a great group of coaches from different parts of the area and from different sports to talk about the safe return to sports as part of Ready to Play Week here on 1510 AM. First off, I want to introduce Nancy Dorsey. Nancy is the head volleyball coach at St. James Academy. Nancy, thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. We are ecstatic to have you representing St. James in the Powerhouse Volleyball Pro for the Thunder. Next up from North Kansas City, from Northtown, good friend of mine, head coach and new interim assistant principal for North Kansas City High School, Coach Leon Douglas. Coach, how are you this afternoon?
Doing well, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Absolutely. And representing kind of the outlying areas in Kansas City, something that I feel like kind of gets ignored sometimes. From Eudora High School, Eudora, Kansas, on the Kansas side, Coach Sean Hayden from the Kansas Class 4A standout Eudora Cardinals. Coach, how are you?
Good. I appreciate you having me on here today.
Hey, guys, thank you for doing so much for kids and dedicating your life to enriching kids' lives with the power of sports. It's what Shareways is all about, and we just want to encourage you to keep that up. I have a quick question to open things up, and I want each of you to kind of think about it and answer. When you first heard that COVID was going to eliminate your spring seasons and eliminate any kind of activities around sports, send people into isolation, what kept you up at night in terms of your programs? What was the thing that you worried about the most? Let's start with you, Nancy. I know you're super involved in promoting volleyball throughout the city. You got really active really quickly and very involved with Ready to Play, KC. Tell us a little bit about what was that initial feeling of, oh, holy cow, we're going to give up sports?
Sorry, one of my kids just came in here. Yeah, I think probably the first thing that stuck out to me, obviously I've played sports my whole life. I have 5 kids. They play every sport there is right now. They're all young and very active. I was worried about their mental health. I think as a teacher, as someone who's been in the school environment pretty much my entire adult life, to me that is a rising concern just in general in our society. But when you take away something that is an outlet for kids, I know it was certainly my outlet as an athlete, is that, you have a bad day, I'm going to the gym and I'm going to feel better and I'm going to take it out on the volleyball and I'm going to walk out, less agitated or annoyed or whatever, emotion I might have been feeling that day. So my number one concern was their mental health. I was very concerned about how this would impact the kids who were seniors that lost their opportunity to play for, an opportunity, just the opportunity to play itself. But some of them who we knew would compete at the state level and potentially win a state championship, that was taken away from them. And that's something that I don't know that they'll ever get over. So I felt sad for those kids that lost those opportunities, but mostly I felt worried just about what these kids would do and how they'd spend their time and what I could do as a coach and a leader to help them kind of get through that. That was what kept me up at night.
Hey, Coach Douglas, how many kids are in your program, and what were you worried about when you heard?
We right now we have about 102. I think for me being a fall sport, I really didn't, I wasn't pressed as far as, worrying about playing and whatnot. The thing that was the biggest concern was whether or not, the kids' academic eligibility, like how was that going to be defined? And I think they did a great gesture in basically just granting everyone being eligible. The online academic format is tough. I know it's tough just with a 5-year-old that's finished up pre-K. So I can only imagine what it's like really having to do, 7 to 8 classes without having those academic resources around you. And so once they really said, everyone's going to be, grandfathered in their next season of eligibility, I was relieved. But at the end of the day, I think just being able to tangibly touch and bump into your athletes and bump into your students is something that we all miss. And that's really the main point. I think at the end of the day, just being around each other is something that is valuable that we definitely probably won't take for granted, moving forward for a while.
Coach Hayden, similar thoughts with football being in the fall? I mean, maybe it wasn't such a immediate worry, and maybe it was something that kind of hit you gradually.
Yeah. So I also coach track.
Oh,
so I really felt bad for those kids, number one. But, sports themselves are an opportunity for us as coaches to teach life lessons to these kids, teach them to be better, employees, fathers, wives, husbands, and to have that opportunity taken away from you is tough. And hopefully, those things are going on at home, but we know that it's not always the case. I worried about kids, what's going on at home. Are they getting their meals? Number one, and that's tough. And then, she talked about the emotional health aspect of it. Kids, they need that. Are we doing more harm than good sometimes, just taking them away from their peers? I have a 3-year-old, and he's calling his toys his best friend right now. That's sad that, he's not around other kids where he would have been at daycare and preschool. So,
That sounds good. I just think that what we have to do is make sure that our kids are getting the kind of physical activity they need. They're getting, we're talking to them honestly about what's happening and sharing it. And you guys are in really unique situations. Nancy, you were really active. You did a blog. How many blogs are you up to? Your blog?
7.
No one did more ready to play games, ready to play videos than you. All your videos were well produced. They involved obviously developing skills. You spent a lot of time making sure that your athletes were staying ready to play.
Yeah, I'm the American Volleyball Coaches Association is the association that kind of is the lead of all volleyball, whether it's collegiate, NCAA Division II, JUCO, high school, and I'm the high school rep for the nation. So that really helped because I've been in a lot of rooms, Zoom rooms, in a lot of conversations that I wouldn't have otherwise been in. So I was able to, discuss with people who are leaders in the sport across all levels, collegiately and high school, to say, what can we do? What are some things we can do? And for me, it was, like I said earlier, it's just keeping kids engaged. I obviously return to sport. When we talk about that, we have some concerns about their health, right? Whether or not they're going to be physically fit. You've got football coaches on here. Those kids are going to take hard hits, right? In volleyball, there's a lot of jumping. There's a lot of overhead motion. And if they're not developing those skills or those muscles, they get back on the court and we try to go back to, hey, like we normally would. And, when August rolls around, they're not going to be ready. So for me, we started doing Zoom workouts in March when this was shut down. I'm like, listen, I did it with them. I don't know if I've ever been, since I've been done playing college, I don't know if I've been this fit in a long time. I'm like, well, this is actually kind of fun. I'm like, hey, I'm in this with you, right? We're going to do it together. So that I don't remember who said, I think it might've been Sean, but just that that peer like camaraderie. It's not the same being on Zoom and looking at your friend lifting weights on the computer screen, but there's still something. I've really enjoyed it. Like, I don't feel like I'm alone, working out. And that's normally how I would do it, alone by myself before anyone wakes up. So now I have peers to do it with and friends, and it's a lot more fun. I'm getting a lot more out of it. So if I'm feeling that way as a grown woman, how are these teenagers feeling? So just creating as many opportunities as we can to get them together, in the Zoom room. And we have leadership meetings once a week. We've done some challenges. We did a dance challenge. We've done some silly things, but just to kind of keep it light and fun, and remember that eventually we're going to return to sport and things are going to go back to normal, and we have to keep a positive attitude.
Yeah, that's cool. Coach Hayden, what at Eudora, how have you kept your team together, and what have you done during COVID to keep them ready to play?
Well, first off, I keep weight. So with the online learning, I was able to use Rack Performance to push out workouts to our kids.
Hey, shout out to Rack Performance.
Yeah. When our community won the Rack from Home challenge, actually, and we won quite a few prizes. So that was pretty cool of our community to do that. Yeah. But then, we got back, and, when the kids came back on June 1st, we had stipulations. We had to be outside and our numbers had to be small. And I didn't know what it was going to be like. I didn't charge for summer weights for the first time. I didn't know if parents were, out of work or whatnot. So, it was free. And I had 100 and I dropped the link on like a Friday morning at 6 a.m. By 9, I had 160 kids signed up. We ended up with 180 kids signed up. Out of our school, 400, which is huge. We started outside, just doing body weight, and like she had said, we have to be aware of injuries and just going too fast back into it. So we spent 2 weeks outside just working on body weight and flexibility and mobility, and then we finally were able to get in the weight room. Still with stipulations. So I have 90 in a session. And, we have 30 inside, 30 in a different location, and 30 outside, and rotating through. And we're still just working on barbell complexes. We're not getting crazy heavy. We're working off body weight percentage, just trying to get these kids ready.
That's great. Well, Coach Douglas, 102 kids, obviously less resourced, I would guess. Have you ever even heard of Rack Performance? That's probably something that you might be interested in. It's a weight training software that helps you give your kids daily workouts. I think they're giving it away for free, aren't they, Coach Hayden?
You might, if you sign up, I think, to one of their webinars, you might get an opportunity.
Yeah. Anyway, what are some of the things that you've done to stay connected to your team, Coach Douglas?
Well, right now we've really done a better job of getting everybody put into our Huddle app to where we can communicate via there, as well as we're using the Band app to communicate.
Okay.
We're doing small groups as well, and so we do 2 groups in the morning. We do 2 groups in the evening, and we're about 25 athletes per group, coach led by 1 coach. And we have 2 other coaches present that really assist with the cleaning and getting the next group going. And so we got some things going. Again, we know about Rack. I don't use Rack. I'm kind of an old school guy, prefer blowing my whistle, sure. Being engaged like that. So,
that's good.
But it's been fun for us. To be honest with you, the beauty of it is the fact that you do have smaller groups. I think it's more intimate. I think it's better for younger guys. We have some freshmen, that are 13, 14 years old. That honestly, if we were doing business as usual, be in the weight room, probably some of the strongest kids in the area. We got a few kids that move from quite a nice amount of weight that, could become pretty intimidating. So it allows us to kind of tailor stuff to kind of the skill sets of each group rather than trying to hit your best player and your newest player all in the same group. So.
Right. Well, I've got one more question for you guys. I'm going to save till the end. But, Randy, I'd like to turn things over. I'm sorry I've kind of dominated it. But you guys have been so great to share with us. This is Ready to Play Week. We're on ESPN 94.5 and 1510 AM. Thank you all for joining us and making this a really special session. Randy, what do you got?
One of the things that I've noticed is everybody in this group does a lot with social media. And I think that has maybe helped create or keep some of the bonds that you have with your players a little more intact. How has social media helped you to keep your players maybe keep their heads up through some of the times where maybe you couldn't do anything at all, especially the first couple of months when it was just everything was locked down and we were all sitting at home?
You got to pick.
I'll go first since I've been going first. This is like a ladies first thing.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I think it's been huge for us. I was listening to the other gentleman talk, and I think COVID is bad, right? And I think we would all agree that we would like it to go away. But there's been some things that have happened because of it that maybe I wouldn't have known or done otherwise. So these leadership meetings that we have been doing like once a week, and we'll do them with freshmen and then upperclassmen separately, because I didn't want the freshmen to be intimidated to talk. They're in a room, again, a Zoom room full of all 40 girls, and they're like, what do I have to say that's valuable, right? Because I'm a newbie. I remember being the newbie, and it's been awesome. I really got to know them. Typically, when school year starts and the freshmen come, I don't know many of them that well. I feel like I know all these kids a lot better. I know their heart a little bit better. And as a girl and as a woman, as someone who coaches females, that's a huge part of our ability to be successful. Is that how well do I know and connect with these kids, and how well do I know their heart? Do I know how they like to be coached? Do I know their personality? And I feel like I have, a slight advantage going into this next season, because I feel like I kind of almost got to know them better, because people were maybe a little less afraid to be vulnerable on a Zoom screen as opposed to maybe in person. And that's been one really great thing that I've seen come out of this. I try to find the silver lining in all of this, right? But our ability to do challenges on Twitter, and then everybody can see each other's video, and then there's a group chat going around. I mean, it's not the same as being there in person, but it was engaging them, which was my biggest concern, is that I don't want them sitting at home feeling depressed, laying around. They need to be up and at it. We did a 5K together. We did all kinds of different things to just kind of keep our spirits up, because I think that's a huge part of this, at least for me, from my perspective, is we really need to keep them positive and looking to the future. Like we're going to get there. We're going to get back to sport. So without social media, it would have been a whole lot harder to do those things.
Yeah. Coach Douglas, have you used social media to stay connected?
I have. I think, just from sending messages, I think just paying attention to the messages your kids are sending is often pretty good too. We definitely, try to do our best as far as, kind of highlighting what we're doing. But I think for me personally, just being able to go through a timeline and seeing, what some of your athletes are saying is very beneficial. So it may lead to, a direct phone call to address something on a deeper level. So.
Right. Coach Hayden, anything to add about social media that maybe, I know there's a social component to rack performance, but what else?
I use social media as a way to promote our kids and promote positive things. When they see that they're being promoted, and Randy touched on earlier, we have good football and good athletes out here that may not get as much recognition. And so I think with that, I'm able to change that a little bit, get some eyes on them. And it makes them work harder. We had talked earlier, some kids are in school just because of sports. That's the only reason they come to school. and if they happen to graduate and get an opportunity, that sport that was me, you know what I'm saying? And so social media is a great tool for that now, you see cool things and you just want your kids to know about it. They follow you, and, like the one thing we talk about, all the time is controlling what you could control. We couldn't control that our sport was taken away from us. How can we make the most of this? And we also talk about, when I got these kids back in the weights, that you never know, your whole sport you've been working for could be taken away just like that, by injury, by COVID, by anything. So don't take any day for granted. Do everything you can with this high school experience that you can do. Kids that I thought didn't like coming to school were so excited. They're like, man, made me realize how much I actually missed it. So,
it does help to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I said I had a final question. Nancy mentioned the opportunity to be vulnerable during a Zoom call. I kind of want to talk about social injustice a little bit, and just talk about whether or not you're going to have a conversation with your teams. Obviously, it's something that is prevalent in all the conversations that I'm engaged in. Every single Zoom call I've been on, we've touched on it. I did a Zoom call earlier this year, and we talked earlier this week, and we talked about how sports has the ability to help with reconciliation and help kind of bring some sort of real intentional, deep, important conversations that we need to be having. Do you guys expect to have those kind of conversations with your athletes as you get back together with them? Let's start with you, Coach Douglas. Obviously, you speak from an experience and a side that none of us really know. What is it that you want to be able to communicate to your kids about what happened this summer, and how Black lives really do matter, and how there is a deficit that we must make up?
I think more than anything is just, you got to be there to listen, and acknowledge their feelings, and acknowledge that, some of these kids were part of the protest. And I think it starts there. We've always kind of been a little different here in North Kansas City, to where we've always kind of acknowledged some of the difficulties with dealing with law enforcement. I've often had our school deputy officer, take us through trial runs and kind of do some modeling of what it takes to navigate certain conversations and certain experiences that could, be part of being a diverse individual in this country. And so we've done that for years now. And so I think one of the things we'll continue to do is have those conversations, but not only just have conversations and vent and share our expressions, but really think about how can we as a school, how can we as an educational institution, put value back in this education, so we can change and do things in a manner to which we can really be effective. I think that's something that is often missed. When you talk about civil rights is an awesome thing, but it's also a part of developing and learning and educating yourself to do better and to require better for you and for your families and whatnot. And so that's the approach we're going to take. I think we're going to move past just kind of, just saying what it is, and also really start searching for some solutions that are within our control.
That's awesome. Coach Hayden, you going to have a conversation with your kids about what happened this summer?
Yeah, I have already. Eudora it's 90% Caucasian.
Sure.
I have 65, 70 kids on my football team, and about 10 people of color. So it's I had a one-on-one conversation with those kids first. Letting them know what I can do if there was anything to happen, and having that open dialogue that I'm always here for you. And that's why I love football. It's a sport that it doesn't matter, where you come from, how poor you are, how rich you are, what color you are. It is a perfect sport for life. And what is your value, to this team and a greater good. And I wish everybody had an experience like that, and I grew up in Southwest Kansas, which is all Caucasian. And I was not around people of color till I went and played college football. So I'm glad I had that experience, for me as a man and as a person. But I just hope that we, every coach can communicate that to their kids, regardless of their diversity in their school.
Yeah. Nancy, anything do you want to add as far as, obviously having those kind of conversations, the hard talks?
Yeah, and I think this is why everyone on this call loves to coach. And those are the opportunities to really teach something beyond our sport, is to teach them about life and how to be a good human being and how to be a good member of society. I'm also a history teacher, so this is something that I have felt very passionately about for a long time. And I also don't work in a very diverse environment. Our school community isn't super diverse. So I think it's even all the more important to make sure that these kids know the history of everything that's happening and going on in the country, but also where they stand on it. We already have had 2 conversations about it on our Zoom calls. And honestly, I've been blown away. I think in general, people are pretty hard on this generation, where the Generation Z, is that right? We don't have a lot of faith in them and humanity. And I would argue after these conversations that we've had that I have a lot of hope. I think these young people are the least racist among those living today. And I was really, really moved and impressed by kind of their insight. These are 14, 15, 16-year-old girls, and they had incredible insight. One of the things we had them do was, I said, you need to spend 10 minutes, just 10 minutes the first time we talked about it, watching, reading, go to a reputable source and find out what's going on and why it's going on. And then I want you to spend 10 minutes in reflection, have a notebook, journal, something. I want you to write something down. And they came to that next meeting, and I said, okay, what did you hear that surprised you, that upset you, and how did you feel about it? And it was an incredible conversation. I looked at the clock. I'm like, oh, I probably should let you guys go. It just kept going on and on and on. So I really think it's important to have the conversation. It's what coaching is all about. I love the X's and O's of my sport, but I love making these young women good people way more. That's far more important in what we do than the X's and O's of our game.
Well, it's a tribute to you as a coach and all of you that you've dedicated your life to kids and teaching them through the sports that you love. Just want to keep encouraging you to do what you're doing. Shareways is here to help. You will continue to have opportunities to engage with us. So we want to encourage you to continue to do that. Help promote Ready to Play Week all week. We're going to be on every single day, 1 to 3 on 94.5 at ESPN and 1510 AM. We're going to be talking about this a lot on social media. So like us, share us, and get involved. We all also are raising money for kids to keep kids engaged. And I'd like to encourage anyone out there listening to text READY to 26989. Text READY to 26989, and you'll be logged in to help give. Thank you so much for joining us, Coach Douglas, Coach Hayden, Coach Nancy Dorsey. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I think it's going to be a really important conversation next Wednesday. Randy, you have anything to say to finish us off? I feel like I stole the whole
I think
interview.
I think it came together really well. I mean, we had coaches from different sports, from different parts of the city. We had a city school, we had a suburban private school, we had a school that's really in a rural community, that all really are dealing with what would seem like different issues, but to hear them talk about a lot of the same topics, I think is really great. And it reflects well on all of you, the love that comes through, that you have for your players and for developing young people into future parents, future leaders, future people that are going to lead this community forward. And I applaud all of you for that. Thank you very much.
Okay. So
thank you.
We recorded it. We're going to play it on Wednesday. Thank you guys so much for your time. And if any of you want to reach out individually and talk more about Sharewaves, please let me know. We can provide lots of support and attention to what you're doing and tell your story anytime. We'd also like to help if you need some any kind of assistance. We'd like to be there to help. So keep us in mind. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Take care, guys. Have a great day.